Hey, I'm Mimi.
I'm Emily. And we're killing time.
It's a show about true friends
Talking about all things true crime.
Today's theme:
Hope to die.
I don't hope to die.
Because, our last one was Cross My Heart. So this one's Hope to Die.
Get it?
Yeah, last week was our, Valentine's Day episode. So now we're kind of doing the other side.
Breakup, rejection.
I like to, whenever, when we did the Hello Kitty one, we did something a little hard the day after. So, I like to do, we did kind of a longer one. So, hopefully this one will just be, we like to balance it for you guys. We like to give you the big,
cleansers.
Yeah, big
Palate
juiciness, and then.
Ooh, I like that.
Anyways, so I'm gonna tell you about Reeva Steenkemp, the model from South Africa. So this is I get to tell her story today. So Reeva Steenkamp, I'm the worst with names. I say it every episode.
She's from South Africa, so I'm gonna say it's Steenkamp.
Reeva,
she's from South Africa.
Yeah. South Africa. Yeah, she does have that really nice accent. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's hot. It's like a classy Australian.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's like. So Reeva was born on August 19th, 1983 in Cape Town, South Africa. She began modeling at a pretty young age. You know, she was TV host. Are you stroking? No, don't you? So Reeva began modeling at the age of 14, and she grew to become one of the most famous models at that time, especially in South Africa. And she was just absolutely stunning. I mean, she was gorgeous. She was great at what she did. But more than that, she also had a law degree. She was working as a paralegal, and she was studying and hoping to take the bar and become a full advocate attorney by the time she turned 30.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she was really super duper cool.
Yeah.
Well, her boyfriend, Oscar Pistorius, again with the names, I'm sorry. So Oscar Pistorius was a South African Paralympic runner. So he was also at the height of his fame at the same time that Reeva was. He was a double amputee. They called him Blade Runner. He was actually the first double amputee to compete in the Olympics.
And may I just say, he was so fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
He should get some blades that spark. So when he runs,
yeah,
it's because he's so hot and foxy.
Well, I don't really have a lot of good things to say about him, but he was
I know, other than you're cute.
He was a very talented runner. So, he's this A-list guy in South Africa and, making news around the globe.
Yeah, cutting the competition.
Cutting the competition down with those blades.
Thanks, guys.
So he also had some negative press, not just all the
look at this great runner guy.
He also had some issues. Some ex-girlfriends made reports of him being kind of prone to control and violence. He crashed a speedboat at one time, but also weapons offenses. He refused to take blood tests at times.
He's a troublemaker.
He's a little bit of a troublemaker, but everyone was like,
"Oh, but you're this double amputee amazing runner."
So, that's what happens. That's what we do to celebrity culture sometimes.
When you're a winner, you can get away with stuff.
He won. He wins things. He's amazing at this thing. So let him crash a boat.
I mean, if you can't crash a boat, being a gold medalist, when can you crash a boat?
Put that on a t-shirt, I guess. So, Reeva and Oscar made big headlines in November of 2012 when they went public as a couple.
She is beautiful.
She is so beautiful. And, they were
so beautiful.
This couple that was beautiful and famous, but because of all the advocacy that Reeva, tried to do, people also equated Oscar as being, a paraplegic advocate. So they really just thought this was the couple. They're beautiful, they're successful, they're doing good for the community. Yeah. Some of Reeva's friends had a little bit of reservations. One of Reeva's cousins went on record saying that, she was a little troubled by it. Riva seemed a little troubled, but, you know, it is what it is. It's a new relationship, and they're celebrities. Riva's mom, at one point, said that her daughter confided in her that she was thinking about breaking up with him, and that they weren't being intimate together. The mom said that Riva told her this. There are a few messages, you know, between Riva and Oscar where she was like, I felt like you humiliated me at this public event, which is typical stuff for like, I guess, you know, all relationships, if you go through their text messages, you're going to have some not great things. But the thing about this is they were new. Like, this was just when they got into dating. Mm-hmm. So that's a red flag. So only 3 months later, they've been dating for 3 months. So on Valentine's Day, 2013, Oscar thinks there's an intruder in his home. He wakes up in the middle of the night to some noise behind the closed bathroom door, his like master bathroom. Right. He knows someone's rumbling under there. He hears it. He always keeps his gun by his bed, so he grabs his gun and he starts shooting, and it ended up being Riva, and he killed her. Wow. So that was his story, that he thought there was an intruder. According to ballistics, the first gun went into her right hip and then kind of ricocheted a little bit and made her fall back. The second one hit her right arm, presumably as she was covering her face. Oh, okay. Another shot just went back and hit the wall behind her, and then the fatal shot went through her arm into her skull. Wow. Yeah. So 4 shots. They don't know the order of the last 2, the one on the wall and the one that ended up killing her. Right. Ultimately, but ballistics can, you know, pretty positively say that that's how she was hit. These are the things she was doing, backed in the corner. Right. Like this. Through the door. And the shot of her the first shot that was through the hip, ballistics says that she was standing like directly behind the door. Like it was a pretty direct, like, you know, she wasn't somewhere else in the bathroom. She was facing the door.
And essentially implying that if she got shot through the hip, she'd probably scream or cry or say something to where he would have. Correct. Yeah.
Because they don't know how the last 2 shots happened, the one on the wall and then the one through her hand, but they do know there was a shot in, you know, before the fatal one, another one besides the hip one, which was the one through her arm. So this wasn't a question of who killed Riva, right? It's not like a who done it type situation. Right. He immediately was like,
oh my god, I did it, and as soon as I realized, I, you know, called you guys, tried to resuscitate her,
etc. The police just weren't buying it, and a day later they had him arrested. So he goes to trial, and Oscar really stuck to that it was a complete accident, even though they've only been dating for like 3 months, but he presented as this really sorrowful, you know, guilty, you know, this was a tragic accident type situation. They lived in a gated neighborhood in South Africa, but South African crime rates at the time were really high, so he used that to say that he was, you know, which is true. You know, he lived in this nice neighborhood, but the surrounding area apparently was still very high crime rates. Yeah, so that's why he always kept his gun next to the bed there. So that was his story. The prosecutors, however, obviously painted him in this really abusive light. They showed some text messages, some testimony of ex-girlfriends saying physical and verbal abuse. And, you know, of course, the situation itself seemed fishy. You know, if there were 4 shots, wouldn't he have had time to hear her, you know, say,
stop, wait, it's me, like,
ow! I can't imagine that she would have just stayed quiet.
No, and I mean, the door's closed, and, you know, it was like a 3 a.m.-ish type situation, so I hear these all the time, the shot in the middle of the night things, where it's like,
I accidentally shot my wife, I thought there was an intruder.
Did you not for 1 millisecond just maybe put a hand next to you while you're getting a gun? Yeah. Just a quick...
Sharon, is that you? Have you learned nothing from horror movies? Billy, is that you? Billy, this isn't funny. Like, do the Billy test, guys.
do the Billy test always. Like, I cannot imagine ever. I mean, everyone's different, but I cannot imagine not at least doing because God forbid I accidentally shoot my boyfriend, I wouldn't be able to live with myself.
It's always my first assumption to assume that no one did break in and it's someone that lives there in the bathroom or making a noise
who
first.
I spent the night with last
and
night.
then you do the Billy test.
Like, how many times you get up? Like, I gotta pee at least once a night sometimes.
Yeah. You ever seen Friday the 13th? Nightmare on Elm Street? Halloween? Like, any movie has I hear a noise. Is it the person that I was just having sex with?
It could be. Or they're already dead. Either way, you have to get that verbal clarification. Okay, so that's all fishy. It's all bad.
Sus.
Yeah. And in the trial, 2 different neighbors gave testimony that they heard women's screams earlier that night coming from Oscar's house general area. 2 different neighbors testified that. So,
yeah, the evidence
that's that. That's just all I'm gonna leave it at. On September 12th, 2014, Oscar was found guilty of culpable murder, which is just, South African manslaughter.
Manslaughter, really?
Yeah, just manslaughter. Yeah, just, you did it. You didn't mean to, but you still did it. So there's some punishment there that has to be.
Well, it sounds to me like his celebrity helped him with that, too.
He was sentenced to 5 years in jail, but only served 10 months. Over a year later, in December 2015, the South African Supreme Court of Appeals overturned the culpable murder charge and actually found him guilty of murder. The minimum sentence, I guess, in South Africa for that was 15 years. However, he was sentenced to 6. So he's got some good lawyers, I guess.
He sure does.
I don't know. 2 years later, in November of 2017, they finally extended his sentence to 13 years and 5 months.
It's like they kept having second thoughts. They were like,
Yeah.
6 years, yeah, that's fair. And then 4.5 years later, they're like, don't you think that was kind of light? Like, let's just give him a little more. He's fine, okay? He's fine. Let's just give him a little more.
Yeah.
Okay, now, we're going to give him...
Too much, back.
We're just going to take a little bit away.
Craziness. So
Make up your mind, South Africa. We love you.
Yeah.
Thanks for Charlize.
Thank you so much. So a lot of people obviously compared this to the OJ situation.
Yeah, I would definitely associate the two. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Athletes are heroes in our eyes.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah. It's hard to get past that.
Reva's death also began this conversation of what's known as the, quote, missing white woman syndrome, which is where, if there's, people, it's the term is used to compare the difference in phenomenon if a, blonde white woman goes missing versus any other group that goes missing or has murder, how the difference in airtime that they get and just press that they get.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Right, yeah. So, that started a lot of conversation because there was really high crime rates in South Africa at the time, and particularly women of color were not having their stories be heard. Ironically enough, Reeva was a really big advocate for that. The second to last tweet she did before she died was this, wear black on Friday to show support for victims of trauma and abuse survivors, and we need to hear their stories and tell their stories, like that. She was just such a good person.
Yeah.
She took care of her parents. She loved her parents and even financially took care of them. It's just horrible. So
yeah, it's really sad.
But that's her story. Because even to this day, if you look up Riva Steenkamp, the first few things are
Oscar. It's always about Oscar.
The article I actually am going to mention that I got a lot of this information from is The Guardian article by a Sonia Sodha. It's an opinion article, and it's just about Oscar's fame and how, hey, let's talk about Reeva.
Yeah. And I just want to add, I really like the name Reeva.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
I really, really like it. It's so beautiful. I love it.
It's beautiful. And she seems just
and
beautiful person inside as well.
She just seemed like she was just beautiful, like she was an angel. And F you, Blade Runner.
Yeah, stop talking about Oscar in your articles. No one cares. He did a bad thing, whether on purpose or not. That's another thing. Everyone, it's one of those things where there's a camp that's like, it was an accident, and then there's a camp that's it was on purpose. So,
I mean, let's just think about the evidence a little bit.
I mean, I have no problem.
And then make your assumption. I don't think it's really that hard to follow the trail.
Right. The difficult thing is there was no clear motive that the prosecution could pinpoint it on.
There's no motive other than he has a past of being abusive to women.
Yeah.
So.
Well. And I'm done.
Great storytelling. And I love your hair.
Thanks. Now I get to sit back.
So, my story is about Shayna Hubers and Ryan Poston.
Okay.
Shayna Michelle Hubers was born in April 1991.
Okay.
And she is born and raised in Lexington, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. She, according to her friends, she was a straight A student. She was in all honors classes.
Yeah.
She was also a great actress in the drama program at school.
Yeah.
So we relate.
Really?
Yeah, she was, she's totally beautiful too.
Mm-hmm.
Shayna is beautiful. She did some modeling, she did some pageants. She comes from a working class family.
Okay.
According to her friends, she was a little bit of a drama queen, and they said that she took a lot of her love interests in high school, like a little too serious. And if she
all in high school?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I don't know. I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend in high school, but I had one. He's not my boyfriend today, but yeah, she took these relationships very seriously, and she was, sort of a little over the top whenever she was broken up with or rejected.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah. So in 2011, she is just getting her bachelor's in psychology from the University of Lexington, and she's about to get her master's degree in school counseling. One day, she gets a DM on Facebook from a guy named Ryan Poston. He saw her picture. Her profile picture was in a bikini.
So she's cute.
She's cute, and she's pulling out some thirst traps. Because when your profile picture is a bikini picture,
that's pretty,
that's thirsty. That's thirsty. She's putting it out there. But hey, you know what? She had it going on. She had it going on. So she put it out there. She was... at the time, 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
And she is Facebook friends with Ryan's cousin, Carissa Carlisle, which is a really cool name, too.
Carissa Carlisle from Lexington, Kentucky.
So, he requested her and talked to his cousin. He was like, what's up with your friend or whatever. And she was just basically like an acquaintance in college. Like, they had seen each other a few times at parties and whatnot, but... she didn't know her that well, but just knew her as like this nice girl who was also super pretty. And so he reached out to her and he asked her out, and she said yes. Now, so let me tell you a little bit about Ryan.
Oh boy.
Ryan is fine.
Oh, okay.
He is
like fine?
Like
oh damn.
Slow jam fine. Like he is so fine. So he is 6'3", 250 pounds. He is built like a hockey player, and he's one of those guys that knows that he's like fine. So he like
never mind.
He like does the like smolder face every time he takes a picture. He's like, like you know what I'm talking about, the face.
Oh yeah, y'all know exactly. What
so he has dark hair. He's tan. He has blue eyes.
Oh, that's so pretty.
And he's also super rich. He comes from a very, very affluent family.
Wow.
He went to high school in Switzerland. He graduated with honors. He's an attorney, a civil law attorney, and he had his own practice. Ryan was super close to his family. He has 3 younger sisters, so he knows his way around the ladies, and he's fine. He was super close to his mom and his dad, and they said that he was the type of guy that would always kiss his mom and his dad and his stepdad and his sisters like hi and bye, and told them that he loved them. So he was sweet. He was sexy.
What's wrong with him? Is he the murderer?
Rich.
He's gonna be the murderer.
He was rich. He was everything. And he was 28 and she was 19 when he asked her out.
Oh.
But yeah, that's kind of weird. But he's so fine. Like, so fine. So obviously she was like, hell yeah, I will.
So you want to put a ring on my finger?
Yeah, exactly. So they started dating, and she was the first girl that Ryan had brought home to his family.
Wow.
So when he starts dating her, he brings her home, and they start spending a lot of time together, and everyone thought of her as, nice enough. They were like, oh, she's really pretty and she's really nice. So anyway, he dates Shayna for 18 months, and it's rocky. It's up and down. He lived in a condo in Highland Heights, which is 80 miles away from Lexington, which is where she's from. So she would drive. She was in college getting her master's degree, and she would drive the 80-mile drive every week to go see him. Sounded as good. Now, Shayna, it kind of seemed by a lot of her interviews and things that, like, coming from a good family and, like, having, like, a family name that you can be proud of, like, meant something to her, even though her name didn't mean shit.
Yeah.
She was, like, looking for the come up. But once again, if her Facebook profile picture told us anything from the start, she thirsty.
She's a little thirsty.
So she drove 80 miles every week to be with him, and he was always like, no, you don't have to do it this weekend if you don't want to, like, I've got other stuff to do. And she was like, no, I'll do it. I did it. Like, he was known for being a little bit of a messy guy. Like, that's the only thing that's wrong with you, Ryan. That's adorable. Yeah, he's like,
did you leave your
underwear? Like, oh, I left my cute little undies on the floor.
Oh.
Yeah, but she would do his laundry. She would clean his house. She would take his dry cleaning.
Wow.
So, like, that's what you would go drive 80 miles for that day.
Wow.
And then you would be his little house bee. I mean, that's a lot,
Yeah, that's what you wanted, but that's...
So it was rocky, and he
Don't you have to study?
Love yourself, girl. You deserve better than that. Like, you don't need to be some house bee. It's a partnership. So, it was rocky, and they dated on and off because they had these, like, tumultuous fights. And he had texted a few friends a few times that, like, it was starting to get a little restraining order type of crazy. And witnesses that were neighbors of his that lived in his condo said that on several occasions that Shayna would show up crying, like, looking for help because he had, like, roughed her up. That happened on several occasions, and she actually befriended a lot of neighbors. Now, let's talk about this, guys. I think she befriended neighbors because she wanted to make sure that they were her friends, so, like, if he brought somebody else around in their off times, that she would get some scoop.
Yeah, no, I immediately...
That sounds like a thirsty bee.
I know who this girl is immediately.
There was several conversations that he had with his family and friends saying that he was ending things and then he would take her back, and that the reason that he was taking her back is because, like, he was just trying not to, like, hurt her so dramatically because she was taking it so hard every time.
Yeah, we've been there.
Yes.
Work on yourself.
So, Ryan had finally, once and for all, thought that he had ended things with her amicably. And this was in October of 2012. And she was the kind of girl that was, would send 50 texts to every one. They counted them. In the 18 months that they were together, she sent him 15,000 texts and messages on his phone. And there were several times where she would send so many, like it would be like 50 to 75. And he would say, I'm not reading any of these. Can you please stop? Because he had broken up with her. And she was just like, text back. Like,
that's beyond excessive. That's beyond anything. Any of my friends or myself are just in those, like, weird breakup moments when you're young. That is beyond.
Yeah. And I think he was also trying to be gentle with her because she was so young. I mean, he was almost 10 years older than her.
Yeah.
And so he was probably like, I remember what it was like to be that age.
And you're heartbroken.
Yeah, and so maybe, like, I'll just let her down.
He's a good guy giving her the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, so they had finally broken up. It had been a few weeks. on October 12th, 2012, Ryan has a date night with a new girl.
Oh, this poor lady.
The new girl is 2012 Miss Ohio.
Oh, she's gotta be so big.
Audrey Bolte.
She's gotta be so upset.
Mm-hmm.
My voice just like...
And Audrey is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And when they showed her getting crowned Miss Ohio, I noticed that her dress was yellow, but it was the exact same dress as my prom. But my dress is black, Avi.
Crown you.
Miss Mimi. Oh my god.
You know what?
Amazing.
I used to idolize pageant girls when I was a little
Oh
girl.
my gosh.
Well, I was like 5.
Like that.
Yeah, like
they're just like princesses.
like
You're
Barbies,
like, oh my God.
you know?
Yeah.
And I always thought, like, why do they cry after they win? And then I won a big pageant when I was 14 that was sending me to New York City, and I lost my mind. I was like ugly crying on stage. I was like, oh god.
You're like, oh, maybe not.
It was just atrocious.
So he's got a date with this new boo, and she's
October 12th.
amazing.
He had talked to her a few times that day to confirm it. He had told friends. He was like so excited. He's like, oh my god, I'm on a date with Miss Ohio. You know? And he was kind of like Mr. Kentucky. If you ask me,
apparently.
because he was so fine. She was really excited. He also met her on Facebook and DM'd her. Like,
Facebook is the place, apparently.
bro was combing through the people you may know, like, not wasting time.
Not wasting.
Yeah, and he, you know, with all those smolder pics, how do you say no? That night, Audrey gets stood up. She waits, and she texts him about 3 times before she's decided to go home.
3.
Yeah.
Not 53.
Yeah. Because you know what? She loves herself, and she's like, I don't need to chase you, bro, okay? You confirm with me, and now you're playing games? I don't think so, okay? So
you do one like, hey, LOL, am I at the right place?
Where you at?
Another one, are you okay?
Everything okay, bud?
Third one is...
Well, I guess I'll go home then if you aren't interested.
Yeah.
Have a nice life.
You give them a little wiggle room. Maybe they drop their bad timing. But then you immediately are like, nope.
Well, she waited for like 2 hours. And he didn't show up. And so she was like, okay, well, I guess I'll go home. Like, I hope everything's all right, you know?
Yeah.
That same night, October 12th, 2012, there's a 911 call.
Yeah.
Shayna Hubers is on the call, hysterical, and she says, I just shot my boyfriend in self-defense. Right? So she stays on the phone with the 911 caller until the police arrive. They instruct her how to get out of the apartment. They make her get on the ground, put her hands behind her head. They arrest her. They take her into the interrogation room, and they read her Miranda rights. Watch our other episode on Ernesto Miranda.
And you'll learn about the Miranda rights.
And you'll learn about the Miranda rights because my lovely co-host here schools you and tells you all about it. And
Drop
it's
some
awesome.
knowledge on the Miranda case.
Yeah, it's awesome. So check it out. So they read her Miranda rights. And she sits down, and they said, what is your name? And she said, Shayna Michelle Hubers. And they said, and what was his name? The gentleman who had died in the apartment. And she says, oh, who? The man that I killed? His name's Ryan Carter Poston.
She's not good at this.
After they got his name,
does she know what's happening?
she decided to say she would like an attorney. And he said, okay, no problem. I would just like you to know I cannot ask you any questions after this. We're going to get you an attorney. And as soon as he arrives, you can talk to him and whatnot. And so generally, what most people, I think, would do would just sit there and wait. But the problem is that Shayna would not stop talking. She was never asked one question, but she just wanted, like, she was so thirsty.
That's what happens when people
so thirsty
lie. Like, they make up this story and then they oversell it. And then they just
Her behavior in the interrogation room was so erratic. She was in there for just under 3 hours, 2 hours and 48 minutes before her attorney had arrived. And she had talked so much that the police officers started to get burned out, and they started taking shifts to watch her because the bitch wouldn't shut her mouth.
Oh my gosh.
She said erratic things like,
Do you think that I'll ever get married if someone finds out that I killed my boyfriend in self-defense?
she said stuff like,
If you go to prison, like, do they let you take your phone?
she started talking about how he kept calling her a goddamn hillbilly. She's
He's like, yo, he called me a goddamn hillbilly, and then he, like, went for me and, like, lunged for me, and I shot him.
and then she was like,
I watched him sitting there, and I knew he was dying, so I shot him a few more times just to make sure.
and then there was another time with another police officer that she was like,
Ugh, Ryan was so vain. He was so vain. You know, he wanted a nose job, and I shot him right here. I gave him the nose job that he wanted.
and in the news, this was dubbed the nose job murder. Yeah.
That's horrible.
Oh, yeah. And it gets worse. Or better. It depends on who you're talking to. So, a few times while the cops are taking shifts, they leave her alone. And she's, like, crying sometimes and whatever. And as soon as they leave, no tears.
Yeah.
And actually, they said she
time.
sounded like she was crying. Her voice was cracking and she was shaking, but we never saw a tear come out of her eye. And
Bad
then,
acting.
yeah, so then she is in the interrogation room by herself, and she just starts pacing, and she goes,
I did it. That's right. I did it. I can't believe I did it. I did it. I did it. I did this.
and then she starts pirouetting.
Oh, yeah.
She just, like, pirouettes every once in a
That'll
while.
do it.
But then the best part was another time that she was left alone, she started singing. She was like, but she'd be like, Amazing Grace.
What?
Yeah. So, according to her testimony, it was self-defense. He was lunging at her. One thing that was commonly known about Ryan Poston was that he was a gun enthusiast. Like, according to his family and friends, he did believe that guns made people safe and that there should be gun safety training on everyone who has a gun. And he, you know, he just loved guns. And like I said before, he was also a little bit messy. So it wasn't uncommon for people to come to Ryan's condo and have, like, guns around. Like, there was, like, always the one, like, the table gun. And then there was, like, the, you know, the lazy boy gun. And then there was one that was always on top of the TV. And then there was a shotgun on, like, a rack, you know? So there was, like, always stuff around. And according to her, he told her that he was going to kill her. He grabbed the gun from his table. They wrestled, and she pulled the trigger. That's what she had said.
Yep, she wrestled with this 6 foot, like, 2 man. Yeah.
When the evidence came in and they looked at the body, he was sitting down on a chair in a kitchen table, was facing was against a wall, and he was in the chair that was closest to the wall with the open area in front of him. So he was a table between the shots that came to him. So how could you be lunging and fighting and wrestling for a gun when you had almost every ability to run away? Because he would have had to come around or at least grab the gun and what have you. But the shots came directly from towards him, and they weren't at close range. Yeah. And he ended up sitting down in his chair and falling over. And then he had been shot a few more times, which caused him to fall to the ground. So they immediately knew that by her erratic behavior in the interrogation room and what they had seen at the scene, they decided to arrest her. And the arresting officer comes in and he goes, we're going to go ahead and we're going to arrest you for murder. And she goes, oh, really? Oh, what degree? And he goes, well, it's just murder. There's no degrees. Her bail was set at $5 million.
I thought you were going to say $5.
No, $5 million. And the reason for that is because of several jailhouse conversations where thirsty Shayna can't stop fucking talking and
Can't
says,
shut her mouth.
if I see a door open, I'm running. And they played it in court. So they said, well, she's obviously a flight risk, so we're going to set her bail high, and she could not raise the money. While she's in jail, she has 2 different psychologists diagnose her with borderline personality disorder. According to more jailhouse conversations that were recorded and later brought to trial, she said, I'm not going to use the defense of my diagnosis because I have Einstein's IQ. So they're not going to believe anything other than self-defense. Shut up, Shayna! Then they go to trial and they try to pull the whole self-defense claim, just like Jodi Arias did.
Just like Jodi.
And she, holds that theory that she was being abused, that Ryan used to tell her that she needed to lose weight, that she needed to get, change things about her face and her hair and things like that, and that he was emotionally abusive to her. And a lot of neighbors had also come forward saying that she had knocked on their door several times and whatnot. Now, even though that testimony was brought, it really wasn't considered because the evidence showed that the way that Ryan was killed was not in the way that she said, that was in self-defense. She couldn't have feared for her life. So she's convicted of capital murder, and she's sentenced to 40 years with a mandatory 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden they find out that one of the jurors had a felony charge and didn't disclose that in the beginning. Now, he claims that it was a back child support arrest, and he thought that it was a misdemeanor, that he wasn't aware that it was a felony, which I think is kind of bullshit, because they usually tell you, like, you've been arrested on felony, blah, blah, blah. So the judge declared a mistrial. During this time, before her second trial, she meets someone that is in the men's wing of the prison.
Oh, dear Lord.
Who is a transgender female named Unique Taylor.
Wow.
And according to her, they are soulmates and that they needed to get married. And so they petitioned to get married. Now, she didn't feel that the process of them getting granted their marriage was going fast enough, so she reaches to one of those 9 on your side news stations, does an interview with a journalist there, and she refuses to talk about Ryan at all, but all she wants to do is talk about Unique Taylor. Now, what I found weird about this interview is that she referred to Unique Taylor not just as Unique Taylor and as a female, but also as Richard McBee. She called him Richie McBee, Richard McBee, him, her. Like, the whole time she's like...
just all over the place.
Yeah, she's like, this is not... I don't consider him a man or a woman. I consider him a soul, and I love him. And I was like, okay, I'm on board. And then she kept calling him, and then she kept calling him Richie, or he is the man of my life. He is the man of my dreams. And all this stuff, and I just found it really odd behavior. Well, they were shortly after that granted the right to marry, and they got married. And then 8 months later, the marriage was annulled.
Great.
And he was released on his theft charges and burglary charges, and then he moved far, far away from Kentucky.
Yep.
And went to Arizona to become a tattoo apprentice.
Very nice.
Good luck to you, Unique. In that interview where she wanted to marry Unique, she claimed that Unique came from a very well-to-do family, a good family name, and
she's chasing that.
Yeah, she's cloud chasing big time. The journalist asked, will you be taking Taylor or will you be taking McBee? And she said, oh, I'll be Shayna McBee. It's a family name. And I was like, okay, that's freaking weird. I thought it was the soul, not really the name, but whatever. So it's annulled. Second trial comes after her mistrial, and she is convicted of capital murder. And she is sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 40 years. But she had time served as well, so she is eligible for parole in 2032.
Blah.
That is the story of Shayna Michelle Hubers and that sexy man she took from all of us, Ryan Carter Poston.
Absolute insanity.
I cannot wait for you guys to check out our Instagram at Killing Time Show. We are going to post sexy smolder pics of Ryan. He's going to be like,
oh yeah.
I mean, he looks so good. And I can't even hate on her though. Like all of her jailhouse interviews, like she, you know, she's not wearing any makeup. She's got her hair all tousled and whatever. She's gorgeous.
Oh, she's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous. She is a gorgeous psychopath. And I'm talking a bunch of shit knowing that she's probably going to be freed in 2032. And she's going to see this.
Oh, yeah.
And she's gonna
you
be
are
mad.
so pretty, girl.
Because you know that pretty girls hate pretty girls. So obviously you hate us, Shayna.
Girl, you're fine. Don't kill us. Thanks.
Yeah. Now that that's done, it's time for Memoriam. See, we kept it short and sweet. Not so sweet.
Not so sweet.
Not so sweet.
I mean, I tried to make mine a little sweet. You know, it's not a good way to sugarcoat murder, but telling her story at least, I think, is a way to help a good person live on. So, to Riva, I'm sorry. This is for you.
So sorry. You did such good work.
Yeah, thank you for being a great role model.
Only the good die young.
Only.
So sad.
Like Ryan.
Ryan, I hope that I gave your sexiness justice because, you know, I'm not really into that kind of like boom, boom, kind of like pretty boy, but I'd take it. And I think you would have hit me up on Facebook too.
I mean, it sounds like he was really smart too and a family man. Just we love to see it. We love to see
he seemed like he was like someone that you really wanted to watch to see what they were going to do out of life. So I'm very sorry that you you came in contact with a psychopath who took that away from you and your loving family.
Yeah. So cheers to you.
Cheers
guys.
to you, Ryan and Riva.
To the victims.
Okay.
That's our show for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, at Killing Time Show.
And Twitter.
And Twitter, yes. I forget about Twitter.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Stay safe.
All right. I'm Mimi.
I'm Emily.
Thanks for killing time with us.